We're so excited to be able to share with you a keynote address from our banquet speaker, Dr. William Lile. Dr. Lile has graciously shared with us his keynote address to Cedarville University, which he provided about a month later. And we're grateful because we've had many requests from people wanting to hear again about his passionate commitment to life and to the conviction that a patient is a person, no matter how small. 5 years ago, when we invited Dr. Lile to be our banquet speaker, he shared that the abortion pill could be reversed if responded to quickly. And our medical director, Dr. Michael Luttrell, immediately got on board. We credit these two phenomenal physicians, and of course the great physician, with the story that was shared on banquet night, Taylor's story. You can find a link to that on our YouTube channel. Truth be told, everyone who has had a part in supporting the Hope Center, whether through financial support, as a prayer partner, or as a volunteer, is a part of these celebrations of life. May the words of Dr. Lile and the images of Taylor's story help you stand strong in your commitment to life, even life abundant in Jesus Christ.
Well, good morning, Cedarville. My wife and I are honored to be here to be able to partner with you on one of your 1,000 days here at Cedarville. Some of you have 100 days to go. Some of you have 100 days behind you already. But it will be worth the investment financially and with the effort and with the time that you're putting into your education here at Cedarville. We are honored to be here, and let me tell you about the practice that we took over. This is where we heard the word of God to say there's a ministry for you. You will all hear these words and opportunities where you can serve the kingdom, where you can take your biblical worldview that you have been studying under for 4 years and use it to serve the kingdom of our Lord. This is actually the practice that I took over in 1999. The largest abortion provider in Pensacola, we took over that practice. We had the physician sign a non-compete where he couldn't practice any medicine for at least 2 years. We took over the practice and we stopped all the abortions on day one. And to this day, there is not a single abortion clinic on the whole panhandle of Florida, starting right there with that clinic. Cedarville has a lot of amazing ministries, but tonight we're going to add one new ministry, because tonight we're going to introduce you to the Cedarville University School of Medicine. We've gone through your grades. We've gone through your transcripts. Y'all are all in. You're into the School of Medicine. Today, we are going to take you to the OR. We're going to take you to labor and delivery. We're going to take you into the hospital, and we're going to let you experience what I do on a daily basis. First thing we're going to learn is Latin. Who speaks Latin in here? Got a lot of people, because a lot of people in Latin America don't even speak Latin, so it's good. Congratulations. The first day of medical school, we all learn this, and there's a Latin phrase called primum non nocere. Say it with me. Primum non nocere. For those who aren't fluent in Latin, what did you just say? You just said first, do no harm. You are now in medical school. You're going to be doctors. We're going to give you scalpels. We're going to give you needles. We're going to give you radiation, chemotherapy, antibiotics. We're even going to give you robots to play with. These are meant to heal, not to harm. So rule number one for all medical students is do no harm. Second rule that we're all taught when we enter into medical school is that patients have rights. All patients have rights. In fact, even in liberal New York State, patients have rights. If you are a patient, you will be treated with respect and bodily integrity. You will not be discriminated based on your race, color, religion, sex, or age. States in all 50 states protect the rights of patients. There is federal law that protects the rights of all patients. But remember, our rights come from God, and it is the duty of good government to protect those rights that come from God. So we're going to talk about patients' rights. We speak at churches, we speak at pregnancy centers, but we also speak at universities. Recently, I was at the University of Florida College of Medicine speaking with the medical students. There goes Joy. We got a little chomp going on there, y'all. But we were speaking at UF, and I was asking the students about patients' rights. I asked them this question. If I have a patient that needs a blood transfusion, that is in the ER. And if they don't receive a life-saving blood transfusion, they will die. But they weren't born in the United States. Do I still have an obligation morally and legally to provide them with a life-saving blood transfusion, even though they weren't born in the United States? And one of the back row guys, you're like, I love the back row. The back row guy stands up and he says, Dr. Lile, we've been taught here at the University of Florida College of Medicine that a patient is a person, is entitled to respect and bodily integrity, and it doesn't matter if they were born in the United States or not. You have a duty, both morally and legally, to provide that patient in the ER with a life-saving blood transfusion, even though they weren't born in the United States. I said, I agree with you. In fact, just so you know, I was taught the same thing here at UF. In fact, just so you know, the patient in the emergency room that needs a blood transfusion received that blood transfusion, even though they weren't born in the United States. Yet. And that is the key. We are now treating patients in the womb as patients. And these little ones, created in the image of God, have rights because these are my patients. I've delivered 5,000 babies, but I've delivered triplets, twins, quadruplets. So when I have a pregnant mom with quadruplets, guess what? I have 5 patients that just walked into the room. When I deliver them, it's baby A, baby B, baby C, baby D. I mean, I can deliver them faster than the NICU can take care of them. But all patients have rights. How many of you know what pubs are? You're like, hey man, it's Cedarville University. We don't have pubs here on campus. Well, it's not that kind of pubs, y'all. A pubs is actually a peri-umbilical blood sampling. Yes, we are doing blood transfusions for babies in the womb at my hospital as early as 18 weeks gestation. They can't survive on the outside for another 6 weeks, but we can save their lives by giving them a blood transfusion. Well, why do they need a blood transfusion? Because from the moment of conception, that baby at just one cell is genetically unique from mom, genetically unique from dad, genetically unique from the other 8 billion people on the planet. I mean, half the time from that first one cell stage, it's even a different gender from the mom. And I know here at Cedarville, they teach you how many genders are there out there? There are 2. You are either XX or you are XY. There are no other options when it comes to gender. But the other thing is, moms and babies can even have different blood types. And there are conditions where moms will have antibodies. These tiny little antibodies can cross the placenta and start to attack the baby's blood. And the baby's blood count will drop. Well, just like any patient in the emergency room that needs blood, sometimes we have to give these babies in the womb a blood transfusion. You guys have blood drives here? Anybody here ever donated blood? If you have O negative blood, we can take your blood and put it in a syringe, guide the needle on that syringe with ultrasound right through the skin of the mom, through the wall of the uterus, go right up to the umbilical cord, go into the umbilical vein, and give that baby a life-saving blood transfusion. That is treating your neighbor as yourself if you are saving the life of a baby that is there in the womb that needs your blood. And sometimes we have to do a blood transfusion every 3 or 4 weeks because mom doesn't want to hurt her baby, but her antibodies are still attacking her baby by crossing the placenta. If we can do blood transfusions for babies that are inside the womb as early as 18 weeks gestation, is that a patient? Yes. And a patient is a person, no matter how small. This is where we would target. We guide that needle through the wall of the uterus, through the skin, right into that vein, and we have animations in our curriculum that show you exactly how we do that. Yet here in Ohio, even though I can save the life of a baby by giving that baby a life-saving blood transfusion in the womb at 18 weeks gestation, you can legally abort a baby at 21 weeks and 6 days here in Ohio. Patients have rights. Ohio has patients' rights in its legislation, and a patient is a person no matter how small. How can on one day I take the life of a baby with an abortion, and on the next day we can save the life of a baby by giving it blood transfusions? It makes no sense. Do we have any identical sets of twins? If you're an identical set of twins, raise your hand and yell out for me. I got one. I shouldn't have heard one voice though if you were an identical set of twins. Did the other one not get into Cedarville? What happened here? You got 2 back there? All right. I'm sorry? Oh my goodness. So he didn't make the academic qualifications to get into Cedarville, so he took his next choice, which was Liberty. Is that what you're saying? I understand. But when it comes to identical twins, sometimes twins each get their own sac, and sometimes they get their own placenta, but about 20% of the time, identical twins are sharing one placenta. Now, those of you with siblings, I know you share everything perfectly with your sibling, just like you share everything perfectly with your roommate. Your roommate would never eat your food from the refrigerator. But you are now in medical school. Look at these twins. They are identical, conceived at the same moment in time, the same egg, same sperm, but before day 13, they divided into two identical copies. Use your powers of deductive reasoning. What's the difference between these two? One's really big and one's really small. And just for purposes, I'm gonna name this one Arnold and I'm gonna name this one Danny. So this one's saying, I need more nutrition, I need more protein, I need more glucose, I need more carbohydrates. Meanwhile, the other one, the other side's going, oh, come on, man, give me a little bit more, give me a little bit more. Spare a little carbs for me. Well, now you know. You know, it was twin transfusion syndrome is what was going on. But what do? We recently had a case like this just in my practice where they had twin transfusion syndrome. This big kid was at the 99th percentile. Meanwhile, Danny on the other side's at like the 1st percentile. How do we teach them how to share? We send to Texas Children's Hospital in Houston, Texas, and they have a doctor. I see a Texas fan. They have a doctor down there who will go inside the womb, go through the skin, go through the wall of the uterus with a scope. That scope is going to give them a visualization, but it also has a laser. And just like Luke Skywalker, they will take that laser and they'll go bzzz, and they will divide that placenta in two. They will go through the vasculature, the arteries and the veins, and they're saying, this is your side of the placenta. This is your side of the placenta. Now, you two knock it off and play nice. They will send them back to Pensacola 10 days later. We might have sent them down to 99th and 1st percentile. By the time we deliver these babies, they might be 60, 40, 70, 30. If we can teach identical twins in the womb how to share, are they patients? Yes. And a patient is a person, no matter how small, and all patients have rights. Who's ever seen this picture before? This was 1999, the same year that I took over the practice. Vanderbilt University was and still is doing a study on if they do surgery on a baby while it's still in the womb to repair a defect in the spine called spina bifida. Would these babies do better than waiting until after they delivered? Now that they've been doing this for over 25 years, they have their answer. When they take the initiative and they treat them as a surgical patient in the womb and then follow them, compared to other kids, these kids that were operated in the womb, 10 years later, they can go upstairs faster, downstairs faster. They have better control of their bladders, better control of their bowels. We have improved the quality of life for these kids for the rest of their lives by treating them as a surgical patient on the inside of the womb. This was one of the first trials. That child that's holding that finger was part of the mom's trial. 8 years after that surgery, I'm speaking to Georgia Right to Life in Atlanta, Georgia, and this kid comes up to me and goes, Dr. Lile. He says, can I get my picture with you? I said, yeah, sure, let's get a picture. He goes, you use my picture all the time. That's Samuel Armas. That is the baby that had his hand sticking out, grabbing the hand of the surgeon. Samuel's now in college. That is Samuel. He was a patient there on the left with rights. He's a patient there when he's 8 years old. We got a picture together. And he was a patient when he was inside of his mother's womb. And all patients have rights. And a patient is a person, no matter how small. Well, what happened to Samuel? Well, Samuel's now playing hoops and shooting basketball. What else? Samuel's got a girlfriend, y'all, all right? Samuel's got a girlfriend, you know? He really loved me showing this to 4,000 people who don't know him. But what else? Here's that little left hand grabbing a strong grip on the surgeon's finger. But what else is that left hand doing years later? He's grabbing the waist of that little girlfriend down there. He's a patient who has a strong left grip there in his mother's womb, and he's an adult with a strong grip on his girlfriend's waist. He is a patient created in the image of God from the moment of conception. But this was generation 1. Just version 1.0. But then what was the next generation? We started doing this fetoscopically, where we used to make big incisions to take out a gallbladder and you'd be in the hospital a week, 10 days. Now you go in with a scope, you have 4 Band-Aids and you're back in the line for Chick-fil-A, on the way home from lunch. Technology changes things. We're now doing the same procedure, not by making an incision in the uterus, but putting scopes on the inside. That was generation 2. So if you have a Gen 1, Gen 2, what else do you need to have? You need to have a Gen 3. We are now using stem cells. This is Diana Farmer. She's at UC Davis in California. And what are they doing? They are taking stem cells. They are applying them to a patch, and they are surgically applying these stem cells on that defect. Stem cells are like 5-year-olds. What's a 5-year-old going to be when they grow up? They need some guidance, they need some direction, they need some training. These stem cells are placed on this defect on the spine, and they go, now I know what I want to be when I grow up, and they start to generate normal spinal cord tissue. That's baby Robbie. Baby Robbie wasn't moving his legs, wasn't moving his feet. He started to move his legs and his feet after they applied the stem cells to the defect in his spine. This is called the CURE trial because they really think they have a cure for spina bifida. So if we can cure spina bifida on the inside of the womb, is that a patient? Yes. And a patient is a person no matter how small, and all patients have rights. You're like, Dr. Lile, it can't get cooler than that. Spina bifida being cured? Hold on, because we're now doing open heart surgery for these babies on the inside of the womb. You're in medical school, so you recognize all the anatomy here. You recognize this? This is an ultrasound. This is the baby's chest. This is the baby's heart. You have the lungs on both sides, but what is that big goomba right there? That's not supposed to be there. That is a teratoma. That is a tumor, a cardiac teratoma. The doctors at 27 weeks said this tumor is growing so quickly that if we don't do something, this baby will die in a week or 2. Option number 1, deliver the baby and you have a 1-pound preemie that has to get open heart surgery. Now we've got a tiny little baby recovering from open heart surgery. Option number 2, let's remove this teratoma while the baby's still there on the inside. The parent said, let's do that. This is the actual surgical team that actually took the mom, took the baby to the OR, and they actually removed that teratoma from the baby's heart. This is the highest level of healthcare, and I pray that some of you who are in the medical field will somehow be able to operate and serve at this capacity, this high level. Bernie Sanders is wrong. When Bernie Sanders says abortion is healthcare, it's not healthcare. Healthcare is when you have a healthy mom wheel into the room with a healthy baby with a heartbeat. Amazing procedure is done with 36 different doctors, nurses, and techs. Abortion is you have 2 heartbeats that wheel in and you have 1 heartbeat that comes out. If you are losing the heartbeats of half of your patients, that is not healthcare. This is healthcare. We're going to run you through this animation. This is an animation. I'm only going to show you a couple animations that we have, but this is one of the ones that we have on this procedure because this is one I guarantee you're going to remember. So we are talking to your family and friends on why you are pro-life, because patients have rights and they are the image of God. Here is that baby on the inside. If you look there, that golf ball-like thing, that is the teratoma that needs to be removed. Mom has an epidural. Mom is wide awake. She's wide awake during this procedure. The OB makes an incision in her skin, makes an incision in her uterus. They bring out the right hand and they bring out the left hand. Cue the pediatric anesthesiology. She starts an IV in the baby's hand. The baby is getting fentanyl for pain. The baby is getting Norcuron as a paralytic. Now we're going to bring in the cardiothoracic team. They make an incision in the baby's chest. They remove this tumor. All of a sudden the heart goes, thank you very much, and the heart starts beating normally. Once the heart is beating normally and everything is stable, they remove the IV. They tuck the arms and the hands back on the inside. They close the uterus. They close the skin. This is at 27 weeks gestation. They didn't deliver this baby for 10 weeks later at 37 weeks gestation. They then delivered the baby. Well, how'd the baby do? You tell me. That's the hand that had the IV in, but there's baby Rylan. Baby Rylan had open heart surgery at 27 weeks just at the Cleveland Clinic. What's that, a 3-hour drive from here? If he had open heart surgery, he is a patient, and a patient is a person, no matter how small. Well, what happened to Rylan after that? Well, Rylan and his dad put on their plaids, and they dressed up, and they wanted to get a family picture. How about now? Rylan is now wearing, he's like a little Superman. He's got it all going on. The only thing Rylan's afraid of is a little bit of kryptonite, and that is it. But that is baby Rylan. And it's like, it can't get cooler than that. It gets cooler than that. We are now doing brain surgery for babies on the inside of the womb. There's a condition called a Galen malformation where a high pressure artery makes an abnormal connection with a vein. 25% of these babies die right after delivery with this condition. Well, doctors said, we don't like 25% of the patients dying right after delivery. Why don't we fix it while they're on the inside? So that's exactly what they did. So they had the mom who was given some anesthesia, and then they put a little bit of an injection of numbing medicine in the back of the baby's brain with ultrasound. They guided this trocar through the skin, through the wall of the uterus, right into the back of the baby's brain. Now, the brain has no pain fibers, so the baby doesn't feel it. We're going to get rid of this brain tissue, and we're going to just look at the vasculature. And then they guided the needle right to this abnormal connection. And there was a presidential candidate who gave them the idea. They said, we're going to build a wall. We're going to build a wall here. We're going to bring in vascular coils. They put in a vascular coil number 1. They brought in vascular coil number 2, vascular coil number 3. Finally, on vascular number 4, they actually blocked the high pressure flow. They had successfully built that wall. The abnormal blood flow was ceased. They delivered the baby later, and that baby is named Denver. If we can do vascular brain surgery for a baby on the inside of the womb, is that a patient? Yes. And that is baby Denver at 11 months. Dr. Sanjay Gupta from, you know where he's from. He's from, the Christian News Network, he's from CNN. Dr. Sanjay Gupta has a tint of green right there for some reason. Listen to him. Did you hear what Sanjay Gupta just said? I've been saying since 1999 that when I have a pregnant mom, I have 2 patients. Dr. Sanjay Gupta, famous Dr. Sanjay Gupta, agrees with me. We have 2 patients in the womb. What's the definition of a patient? A patient is a person receiving medical treatment. Have I shown you a bunch of ways that we are providing medical treatment for the babies on the inside this morning? Absolutely. But you know what else? If they are a person under the 14th Amendment, nor shall any state deny any person of life, liberty, or property, it says on the 14th Amendment. If they are a patient, and they sure are, then they are a person. If they are a person, they deserve protection. So the question is this just a choice? Are we engaged in the greatest spiritual battle this country has faced in the last 150 years? Genesis 1:26. We win and defeat evil with a biblical worldview, which is what you are learning here at Cedarville. Genesis 1:26, after all of the galaxies and the earth were created, let us make man in our image. We're not created in the image of God on the birthday, because I can pick when I'm going to induce you. I can pick when I'm going to do your repeat C-section. We are created in the image of God at the moment of conception. Why do I pop the flag up there? You ever seen somebody burn the American flag? Why does somebody burn the American flag? Because the American flag is the image that represents the United States. If you hate the United States, you want to destroy the image which represents the United States. Same with abortion. If the abortion leadership hates God, they want to destroy what God said was created in the image of God. The moment of conception. Ladies, you are so precise. One little egg, boop, and you have done your job. Guys, you're like a horde of barbarians, like from Braveheart. She puts out one little egg there, and you got like 300 million of your guys all think that they're Michael Phelps and they're going for gold. So your, little swimmers go in there, and it's a huge race, and they don't ask for direction, so half are going to go the wrong way. You should turn right, they turn left. But then when they get to the egg, now it's another competition to get on the inside. And there is only one gold medalist. There is no silver, there is no bronze. We have 300 million little losers that were not gold medalists, so they go home. But how do you keep the wannabe silver medalists from getting on the inside? Because there's an amazing design made by the amazing designer, God himself, which at the moment of conception puts up a shield. And that shield says, no mas, nobody else is getting on the inside. And with mammalian cells, when you look, you can actually see a flash of light. There are zinc ions going this way, potassium ions going this way. And when you look with the right frequency of light, you can see a flash of light. Do a word study on what light means in the scriptures. A light was created before the sun, moon, and stars. You tell me how that happened, because Jesus is the light of the world. That is how that happened. We're going with a biblical worldview. Judges 3, 4, 5, and 6. You read through those chapters, and the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord. What were they doing? They were worshiping other gods, and they were offering their own children as sacrifices to Molech. We have now sacrificed the lives of over 64 million babies here just in the United States. Is that doing evil in the sight of the Lord? Yes. When the children of Israel did evil, what was the response that God said? He just said, oh no, y'all are on your own. He loved them, but he delivered them into the hands of their enemies. He strengthened their hands of their enemies. When it comes to doing evil in the sight of the Lord, the future of the United States of America, your kids, your grandkids, your great-grandkids is in jeopardy because of the evil that we have done. Psalm 139, you form my inmost being. You knit me in my mother's womb. There was a lady on our plane on the way out here who was knitting. Who knits anymore? She was knitting, She was knitting. But you know what? Was she just knitting and doing knit one, purl two, thinking, I can't wait to see, is this going to be a sweater or a scarf? I have no idea. No, every stitch had a purpose. That is us from the moment of conception. Every cell that divides has a purpose. Proverbs 6:16 and 19. 6 things the Lord hates. Anybody want to make that list? I don't want to be on that list. What's number 3 on that list of things that God hates? Hands that shed innocent blood. Can you think of anything which represents hands shedding innocent blood than a place like this? This was the last surviving abortion clinic in Pensacola, Florida. Moms went inside with babies that would have survived in our NICU, and yet their hands that were there shed the innocent blood of those babies on the womb. Romans 5:8. But God showed his love for us in this: while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. Besides my wife and I mean, maybe Thomas. Any other sinners in the room? Is it just my wife? Well, we got a lot of, this is Cedarville. Yeah, we're all sinners saved by grace. God loved us so much that he sent Christ to live a perfect life, give his life, and conquer death for all sinners. But when were you a sinner? Psalm 51:5 says, surely I was a sinful sinner from birth. I was sinful from the time my mother conceived me. So God sent Jesus to live that perfect life and give his life for all sinners. That includes the preborn. So if God has that kind of love for the preborn, we need to be defending the preborn as well. It's a spiritual battle because 18 to 24% of the men and the women that are attending church today, depending on different denominations, have personally been involved with an abortion. They need to be hearing from the pulpit that abortion is wrong, but they also need to be hearing that, yes, we know you are hurting because of this in your past. You are hurting, you need healing. Healing comes from forgiveness, and true forgiveness only comes through the blood of Jesus Christ. That's why this message must be preached from our pulpits by our pastors. Can we win? Absolutely. We serve the God of the universe who created all these billions of galaxies in the earth and all of us as well. What are the tools to win? That's why I'm here today. My job was to give you some new tools that you can use to defend God's preborn. There are legislative tools. There are medicine tools. There are biologic and scientific tools. We have a curriculum that's available for you. What's the number one tool to win? Number one tool to win, despite all the tools that are available, is going to be prayer and the gospel. I mean, the gospel is from Genesis to Revelation. But when you say, well, what books of the Bible do you think of when we talk about the gospel, the good news? I think about Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. The good news of Jesus doing all of that for us. What's the 5th book of the New Testament? Acts. The Acts of the Apostles. It wasn't the hangout of the apostles. It wasn't just the chill out of the apostles. It was the acts, the actions of the apostles. When we take the power of the gospel and we combine that with action, which is why Cedarville is here. That is why in 1887, 5 godly men got together and said, we want to have a center that excels in excellence, but also has a biblical worldview. And that's why you are here today. That is why I am here today. Thomas and Joy and all the rest of the faculty are here to prepare you, because this is your Paris Island. This is your boot camp. You're going to spend 1,000 days here. Some of you are almost ready to leave, and you have been well-trained academically. You have been well-trained biblically. And you're like, I am ready to go out and get a job. But you have another obligation: to serve the kingdom of our Lord, because you are unique in schools, because you have had a biblical worldview in every single class that you have taken, and you are prepared to take that biblical worldview and have victory over evil when you leave Cedarville University. That is the goal of this faculty. That is the goal of the supporters of this university. That's why you are paying tuition, to be able to be a supporter of the kingdom and a defender of life. It's an honor to be here with you, and because this is an amazing institution. We will work with you, and we will provide any resource that we have. Les and I will be out there at the front. We'll be here to answer any kind of questions, but be proud of the institution that you are now engaged in. You have 1,000 days to prepare, and then it'll be, where am I going now? How am I going to serve the kingdom? And you will have those little opportunities that come up to use your skills and use your knowledge, because you might be here for 70, 80 years, and in return, you're going to get to spend eternity with God. What does Cedarville want you to hear? They want to hear when you do get to meet Jesus face to face and you look in the eyes of our Savior, you will have him look back at you and say, well done, thou good and faithful servant. So God bless you all. We're going to close in prayer. We're going to get you out of here. But thank you very much. Lord, we love you. We just are so blessed to have an institution like Cedarville right here in Ohio that is training up men and women with academic excellence. But we also know that they have a biblical worldview, that they are taught in every class and at every chapel for these 1,000 days. May we take these years of experience and knowledge and wisdom, and may when they depart from here, they be ambassadors for you, may they be defenders of life, and may they serve your kingdom and take this message of the gospel, because that is the key to changing hearts and minds. It's the gospel that changes hearts, it's the gospel that changes minds, and it's the gospel that will redeem the United States of America. God bless you all, and you are dismissed, and thank you very much.